at the end of the call. All right. So let me just start by sharing some really cool numbers with you. Number one, in South Florida, the gross commission income for agents working for Keller Williams is up by $8 million year to date through May. Is that good news or bad news?
Good news.
Good news.
Good news, right? That's good news. So up $8 million year to date. Closed volume is up 16% year to date. And here's another one you may want to take stock of and also share with your fellow agents. Profit share is up 10%. We have already profit shared in South Florida $1.4 million through just 5 months. Keller Williams International, by the way, had a record-sharing profit month last year, profit-sharing month. They profit shared $11 million with associates. So there's a big, big profit. I want to remind you we're on a conference call, so make sure that you keep the sound around you to a minimum, the noise and distractions around you to a minimum, so we don't have to mute everybody and we can have an interactive call here. Let me ask you a question. What is the indicator of a really, really powerful real estate business? What's the key indicator? Come on, you guys know this. There's a triangle in the red book, right?
Leads, listings, and leverage.
Leads.
Right. Well, leads, which ultimately lead to listings, right? The idea is to get listings, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so here's what I want you to do. If you would, if you have a piece of paper in front of you, hopefully you do, because we usually give you some numbers. I just want to share some other quick numbers with you. If you would, draw across your paper, write January, February, March, April, May. January, February, March, April, May. I'm just going to give you 5 months worth of numbers here. On the first line below that, I want you to write 2013. So I'm going to give you the numbers for 2013. This is listings taken in the first 5 months of 2013. In January, 1421. February, 1406. March, 1506. April, 1504. And May, 1621. And you can put a little asterisk next to that 1621 because that was the high for the year, 2013. Everybody with me still? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 Okay, great.
Yes.
All right, so let's go to right below the 2013, write 2014. Here are your listings taken numbers for 2014 in the South Florida region amongst our 26 offices. 2014 in January, 1523. In February, 1351. In March, 1370. In April, 1656. May, 1688. Our high for the year. I think we have to guard against for the second half of the year. What do we need to make sure and build into our business for the second half of this year?
Lead gen.
A lead generation strategy for what?
Getting listings.
For listing.
Getting listings, right? Because the last 2 years, our listings have slipped. You might think, well, market just peaks in May every year. Anybody else think that on the call? The market just peaks every year in May? We have a lot of people listing their homes. Is that true or false?
True.
Yeah.
True, right? We have a lot of people listing their homes. Here's what I want you to know. Our high in listings for the year in 2010 was in September. Our high for listings in the year in 2011 was in March. Our high for listings for the year in 2012 was in November. So does it really peak in May, or is it that the activities we do really make a difference?
The activity.
About activities.
It's activities, isn't it?
Yep.
So that's what I want to focus on today, and that's why I called in somebody who is absolutely the king of helping agents get into activity. If you don't know, not only has Tony done over 10,000 coaching calls, but Tony also is the coach for Craig Rieger, who got 87 listings in 90 days. So I want to welcome Tony this morning and have him share a little bit with you. So, Tony, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Mark?
Fantastic. I hope we gave you some numbers, too, to give you a little snapshot of South Florida as well, so you could share some great insight for us.
Good. Great. Okay. So thank you very much. I just want to take a couple of minutes and kind of look at what's ahead of us. And so what's tomorrow? What's the date tomorrow? July 1st. July 1st. Right. So that means we have how many months left to write contracts and take listings? We have 6 months to write contracts. We have 6 months, 5 months to write contracts and 6 months to close them. So from the closing standpoint, we've got 6 months where we can take listings also. Would you say this year is a little bit more challenging to get listings than it has been in the past?
Yes. No.
Yes. No. Okay. I got a yes and I got a no. So as we get into the second half of the year, what's the most important thing the agents need to do as they look at their business and look at getting more listings, more business done in the second half of the year? What's an important thing for them to do?
Look at the numbers.
Look at the numbers and do what?
Work on improving the numbers.
Yeah, welcome the numbers, but plan. For everything we do, in order for people to be successful, we have to lay out a plan. As a region or as a company, from the growth initiative, is that a plan? Would you call the growth initiative a plan?
Absolutely, yes.
Absolutely, it's a plan. I mean, it's a plan you've been running now for 3 years, and I'm on the team leader calls almost every week. So it's very strategic. So what we want to do with our agents is make sure that they're very strategic over the next 6 months. So the first thing I would have everybody do is pull out a calendar, because this time of the year things start to happen. We're in July and August. What happens in July and August?
Holidays,
vacations. What happens starting in October?
School,
holidays.
Yeah, holidays, but yeah, people start thinking that in October 1st, Christmas is just around the corner.
Yes.
So one thing that I do with agents that I coach and we do at MAPS in our coaching is have everybody, it would be a great time to start is right now, because, you know, if you've been in part of the growth initiative, what's the date today, really? What's the date today?
October 1st.
Okay. Mark, is there a way you can mute some of these people out?
Because of the background noise, we're going to have to mute. Go ahead and mute us, would you?
I mean, there's people running meetings, or I don't know what's happening, but very rude. But anyway. So here's what we're going to have to do. One thing you could do is sit down with your agents and have all the agents in the market centers. One thing you can do starting July 1st, have them all fill out a calendar for the last 6 months of the year and start figuring out all the days they're going to work. We have approximately 180 days left in the year. We have actually 183 starting tomorrow. And say, okay, if you're going to stay focused on getting listings, if you're going to stay focused on doing business, you got to figure out how many days you're going to work. So identify all the days you're going to work, and then say, okay, out of the 180 days, I'm going to work 125 days. And then hold themselves accountable to those 125 work days. Don't take off a day that you didn't plan on taking off. And if you look at your calendar, they can figure out when am I going to work to. So what you do is take a look at and say, okay, the way the holidays fall this year, I'm going to work until Monday the 22nd. I'm going to work every day until Monday the 22nd, and then on Monday the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st, I'm only going to come in for 2 or 3 hours and do what are most important kind of calls they should be making on the last 3 days of the year, 29, 30, and 31. It would be their follow-up calls. So make sure they got as many appointments as they can set for the beginning of the year. So number one, get all your agents to lay out all the days they're going to work or all the days they're not going to work in the half of the year. And they can't have a great year only working half the days. So they're going to have to treat the second half of the year the same as they did the first half of the year. Because and the other thing is you can't make up 40% of your goal in the last 2 months. So they got to figure out how many days they're going to work, how much time they're going to put in, then what's their schedule going to be? And somebody mentioned lead gen a few minutes ago. It is basically, 1, you build the days you're going to work. 2, you build a schedule of the days you're going to work and what you're going to do in that schedule. And every morning, for at least, Gary says now 3 to 4 hours, every morning for 3 to 4 hours, what should they be doing? Lead gen and lead follow-up. So those are the kind of things you're looking at. Is what you want to do is get them to build this schedule and start following up with all their clients, do their lead gen and lead follow-up. And right now, lead follow-up is more important than lead generation almost, because 70% of their appointments will come from lead follow-up, 30% will come from the initial call. And then Gary is it's a real big deal right now because people are sitting on their hands a little bit more than they have in the past, and so that lead follow-up becomes more and more important. You know, here's an interesting thing. I coach a lot of the top agents. My average agent probably makes $1.5 million a year, the ones I coach in GCI. And what they're looking at is their lead follow-up is more important than it's ever been because they have to do more lead follow-up than they've ever done because people are taking longer to make decisions. It's a little more challenging out there, and it's a lot more skillful. And most of my clients will tell me, I don't have a lead issue, I have a lead conversion issue. So I think if they're having that issue, then everybody's having it. So the agents got to stay on top of their leads and do their lead conversion. Then once you get your schedule in place, then Gary is saying right now the safest way to build a business, the most protected way to build a business is to build your business off of what lead generation point?
Database. The difference that Gary is saying now is in the red book, if you want to net $1 million and you want to do it strictly off a database, how many people do you need in your database? Anybody know that number? It's on page 189 in the red book. 1920.
1920. Gary is now saying, what if you had a database of, instead of 1920, what if you had a database of 3,000 people or 4,000 people or 5,000 people, and you built a wall around those 5,000 people or those 2,000 people or those 3,000 people, and you owned their mind, and you got an 8% return on your database of 3,000 people. How many closings is that? 8% of 3,000 would be 240 closings. You haven't left your database. And a perfect example of that is a gentleman that Gary's had on at Mega Campus by the name of Alan Dom. He works a database of basically 7,000 people. He does between 600 and 700 closings off those 7,000 people. That's about a 10% return. So he's getting a 10% return on 7,000 people. That's 700 closings. That's lots of millions of dollars a year in GCI. So what we're saying now is build that database and get your people building their database, and now they should be calling them at least twice and preferably 3 times between now and the end of the year. And what questions should they be asking them?
Who do you know?
Who do you know that's what? Finish the sentence. Be very specific with it, though.
Looking to buy or sell real estate in the next 90 days.
Right, but what are we looking for? What's the most important thing we're looking for in real estate right now?
Listings.
Listings. So if we just start asking for listings only, will we get buyers whether we ask for them or not?
Yes.
Yes. So instead of putting that buyer in their mind right now, let's get all of our people talking to our past clients and our center of influence and our MET database, all those aspects. Let's get them to start asking for listings. And we can even ask for specific. Who do you know that's mentioned they might be moving in the next 60 days? Who do you know that might be moving in the next 30 days? We have 15 buyers for this neighborhood. Who do you know in that neighborhood that might be making a move? If we start asking for sellers only, we'll get all the buyers we want because it's easier for them to give us buyer referrals than it is to give us listing referrals. But if we specifically start asking for listings, specifically start training them to give us listings, because we do have to teach agents how to ask for referrals. We can't say, if you ever hear of anybody that's thinking about buying or selling, please keep me in mind. No, we have to say specifically, when you hear of somebody that's thinking about selling, especially if they're going to be selling in the next 30 days, would you do me a favor? Would you call me with their name and number? Please do not pass my name on to any other person. Just be sure you get me their name and number because they won't call me back. How many people love calling salespeople to get a sales pitch? So, tell them point blank. Train your agents to train their clients, their database. Call me with their name and number. Call me immediately. The minute you hear about them, please give me a call. I'll take it from there. I'll provide the same great service I do. So, and then start setting goals. How many listings do you want to have in inventory at all times? What form do we have for that we learn in bold?
My listings needed.
Right, listings needed form. If I'm going to do so many more deals between now and the end of the year, and I want to leverage my business, I want listings. Then I can sit down and figure out, okay, how fast do my listings sell? How many do I need to carry in inventory at all times? Now they know exactly where they need to spend their energy, where they need to spend their marketing time, where they need to spend their lead gen time in looking for listings. And then having them start working now, what's their goal going to be? How many listings do you want to have in your active inventory by the end of the year? Do you want to go into January with 25 in inventory? Do you want to go into January with 15 in inventory? Whatever that number is. Also, it'd be nice to have them set a goal to say, okay, I want to have so many in pending. And how will they know that number? Well, they'll know that number because on October 1st, what are they going to start writing?
Business plan.
Yeah, their 2015 business plan. So on October 1st, you start writing your 2015 business plan. By October 15th or 20th, somewhere in that area, you're now implementing your 2015 business plan. Your lead gen, all your work efforts are based on 2015, because if your goal is to raise your business by 30%, you need how many more closings the coming January of 15, than you did in January of 14? You need 30% more closings. So if you had 5 closings in January last year, 30% more is 1.5. And since we're all part of the growth initiative, what do you do with the 1.5? How do you round it?
Round up.
Round up. So basically, your goal would be to go into January of 15 with 7 pendings. Because you can't start the year off being way behind goal in January, because now they're spending their whole mindset is, it's January 1st and I'm already behind goal. So they look at their business plan that they write on October 1st, implement in October, so they can start writing contracts in November and December to close in January. So one, as you're preparing for the end of the year, the big thing right now is, and I think a lot of people are moving in this direction of getting their agents to build bigger databases, doing the 33 touch, and Mark and I have talked about this a lot of times, and my belief is, and this is a pretty unscientific study, but I've been in front of probably 30,000 people in Keller Williams since I've been at International in the last 6 years or 7 years, and I've done some straw polls, and I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 2 to 4% of our agents do a 33 touch. It's the finest tool in the industry for staying in touch with your database. It's a very profitable system. For me, and selling in Boulder, Colorado for 25 years, in a 7-year period, it created about 700 closings for me, made me about $3.5 to $4 million just doing a 33 touch. So we definitely know it works. So one, get your agents on a 33 touch, getting them to call their clients at least 2 and maybe preferably 3 times between now and the end of the year. And then start building that database as big as you can. Get it to 1,000 people, then 1,500, then 2,000 and 3,000. If every person in your market center had 500 people in your database, and I think we might have done this exercise once before, figure out how many people you would have in that database. If you touched them 33 times, how many times would you be touching them? How many times would you be impressing on their mind who you are as a company, who they are as agents? So if you got 150 people in your market center and each person had 500 people in their database, you would be touching 75,000 people. And if you touch them 33 times a year, you'd be touching them 2.475 million times. That's how many impressions you do. And if you did that for 3 years, you'd have 7.5 million impressions. You can't buy marketing like that. You can't afford to buy it, but if you do it as individuals and you build off your databases, it'll definitely work. So, Mark, those are kind of things I wanted to kind of touch on as to what we're doing now with our clients. Is I've been pushing for, tomorrow's the second half of the year, the most critical half of the year, because this is the time we start believing there's a shift in the market. There's only a shift in the activities. Does the market fluctuate? Yes. Not enough to affect our business, though, because what fluctuates more than the drop in sales? The inactivity of most of the agents. If the market drops by 20% and 40% of the agents in the last 2 or 3 months of the year go defunct, what's left? There's 20% out there that's up for grabs. And it's, as Gary would say in the shift book, when everybody else is defunct, what do? We go into high action mode, and we gain what? What do we gain during that time when everybody else? Market share. There's absolutely a perfect time to gain market share. And do you have goals? Like I'm part owner in a market center in Joplin, Missouri. And we have a goal of how much market share we want to get. And right now, we're at 31% market share in Joplin, Missouri. Eventually, our long-term goal is to be 50% market share. 50% of the sales in Joplin, Missouri, we would love to be through Keller Williams. That means we have to recruit the right kind of people and recruit most of the board. We'd like to have 50% of the board in our office and then have a 50% market share. But when we started this, we had 16% market share. So we've almost doubled the market share about being conscientious about gaining market share. And every time the market goes defunct, which is usually October, November, and December, that's when we know we can gain 1 or 2% market share, just by keeping all of our agents focused on working through those 3 months. So, Mark, hopefully that gives you something to think about and talk about. So, any questions you have that you want to get covered, Mark? I just wanted to... Did I lose Mark? Hello? Okay. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments?
Tony, yes. This is Walter Delgado in Tampa. I have a question.
Right.
I have, do you recommend, I have about 5 fire specialists on my team, and they do a smaller percentage of lead generating and working more on the leads that come in. Do you recommend having them help me in the mornings and lead generate for listings?
I would definitely have you help them look for listings, but you know, and their number one job though is to make sure. Now, who's doing your lead follow up for you? Do you have ISAs doing it, or are you doing? Are they doing their own lead follow up?
They're doing their own lead follow up.
Okay. So the number one thing they've got to make sure they're doing is doing their lead follow up in the morning. And a lot of people right now are moving towards ISAs because their buyer's agents have so many buyers. So it's really the lead follow-up is, what is the lead follow-up? It's really a clarification of finding what? Buyers with a great sense of urgency. Yeah, you got to be looking for people that are really urgent, that are going to be selling soon. Do all of your buyer's agents have their top 5 hottest leads? Do they carry them around with them so they know exactly who they could sell a house to today?
No, the answer would be no.
Okay, so one thing is I would definitely get them to carry their 3 to 5 hottest leads. And in order to be considered a hot lead, what would you say is the time frame they're going to buy in?
It should be under contract within 30 days.
Yeah, see, and I would call a hot lead who's going to buy in the next 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
So how will they know if they're going to buy in the next 7 days?
I've got to ask a question.
They got to ask a question, right? So what would a question? What's a question they could ask?
Perfect idea.
If you found the perfect home, would you be ready to write an offer on it?
Yeah. So let's drop the word perfect because I'm not sure you can find that. So are you in a position where if we found a home that fits your needs, you will buy it in the next 7 days? Great. Then what do we need to do with those people?
Yeah.
If they say yes, what do we do?
Find them a home.
Get them under contract.
Put them in a car and drive them around.
Yeah.
And start showing them houses. And in the marketplace of today, how much time do they have to look for a house?
Not much.
Not much. If you don't buy a house in 1 day, what happens?
You lose it.
It's gone. So are we having those kinds of expectation meetings with them to say, hey, you got to buy a house in 7 days, and not only do you have to buy a house, you have to buy a house in the day you look at it. Not only do you have to buy a house in the day you look at it, you're going to have to sweeten the pot with some of the terms, and you're probably going to have to go anywhere from 3 to 5% over list. Now, question: are you a buyer in today's market? So you got to make sure everybody's working with hot buyers who understand the expectations of the market you're in. And then if they've got buyers, here's how a lot of people are having their buyer's agents look for sellers. If they have buyers and they can't find them a house, or the houses are disappearing too fast, what do?
I don't know.
Cold call the neighborhood.
Cold call the neighborhoods of the places they want to look. We have a buyer coming in from Chicago, and they're going to be working at blank, and they have 3 kids, and they want to live in your neighborhood because of the schools. Who's mentioned to you in the neighborhood they may be moving? We could sell their house within the next 24 to 48 hours. Oh, by the way, have you thought of moving? We have a buyer that could buy your house within the next 24 to 48 hours. So they could be doing that kind of stuff. But right now, the buyer's agents, they need to be making sales because the market's strong enough. So, they need to be lead follow-up to appointments, put a buyer in their car every day, and doing enough deals. What are your expectations of your buyer's agent? Are you asking them to sell a house a week, or are you okay with one house a month? So there's a lot of. This is a really big subject, but they should be doing something every morning to find business and convert business. But it's hard. I totally understand that. That's why so many people have gone to ISAs, the people that I coach. So now a lot of people have multiple ISAs. I have some people that have 3 or 4 ISAs. So I only have till 8 o'clock, and I think that's what Mark told me. Your calls are only 30 minutes. So,
we're going to get them into lead generation now, Tony. Thanks for your advice.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. And Mark, if there's anything else I can do, if you got any other thoughts or you want to talk about, be more than happy to. But build those databases, call those people, and you'll own a market that people can't penetrate. And it's really if the database is big enough, there's a lot of cash flow built into those businesses. So, Mark, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the opportunity to talk. Pardon me. And so, we're down in the last 6 months of the year, but it's really the time to gain market share because everybody else is going to go defunct on you. I guarantee it. By October, the real estate business will be on vacation mentally.
Well, and that'll be our opportunity to gain market share. The
right.
Database, what I hear you saying is your database can be as big as you want it to be. You just have to think bigger.
Right. Yeah, I've got one fella I work with. His database is 135,000, and his team did 1,400 sides last year, and he's tracking 2,000 this year.
Wow, that's awesome. So the 4 bullet points I wrote down, Tony, is build your database as big as you can, ask for listings, do the 33 touch, and have great lead follow-up. And if I follow those 4 principles, I can control the market in the next 7 months.
You got it. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, guys, have a great day lead generating. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Thank you.